You ever have one of those days where you feel like you're running around, totally busy, but at the end of it, you haven't really gotten anything important done? Well, today we're diving into the best-selling book, The One Thing, to break down how you can get these incredible results by actually doing less.
Let's start with this proverb because it perfectly captures that feeling, right? We're constantly chasing multiple rabbits, our emails, our projects, our errands, but at the end of the day, what have we really caught? Usually, nothing.
And here's what that looks like. The path on the left, that's focus. That's progress. But the chaos on the right, yeah, that probably feels familiar. That's what most of our workdays look like, pulling us everywhere and nowhere, all at the same time.
Okay, so to figure out how to be truly productive, we first have to call out some of the common myths, what the book calls lies, that totally derail us and keep us stuck in that busy but not productive trap.
This first one is probably the most dangerous lie of all, and it's when we tell ourselves constantly that everything on our list matters equally. It's this idea that being busy is the same thing as being productive, but it's just not true.
And this right here is such a critical distinction. Most of us, we live by a to-do list. It's really just a survival list, right? A big directory of everything we could do. But the real high achievers, they build what's called a success list, a short, super focused list of what they absolutely should do to hit their main goal.
That's the jump we have to make. We've got to turn that giant, overwhelming inventory of good intentions into a ruthlessly prioritized map that actually leads to results. One is just wishing, the other is a plan. So how do you even start building that success list? Well, the secret isn't new at all. It comes from this powerful concept that's been around for over a century, Pareto's Principle. You probably know it as the 80-20 rule. And the idea is revolutionary. A tiny fraction of what you do is responsible for the huge majority of your results.
And this chart just lays it out so perfectly. Not all of your effort is created equal, not even close. The key to getting incredible results isn't about doing more things, it's about finding that vital 20% of actions that will get you 80% of the way there and then focusing all your energy on that.
All right, let's talk about the next big lie, one that so many of us wear like a badge of honor, but it's an absolute productivity killer. The myth that multitasking is a good thing.
I mean, this quote is pretty blunt, but all the research backs it up. When we try to do two important things at once, we just don't do either of them well. Our brains, they're simply not wired that way.
In fact, there was a huge study at Stanford that found something amazing. The people who think they're the best at multitasking are actually the worst at it. See, their brains aren't doing two things at once. They're just switching back and forth really, really fast. And every single time they switch, they lose time, they lose energy, and they lose focus.
Okay, so if everything we thought we knew about productivity is a lie, then what's the truth? Well, it's a simple and honestly an incredibly powerful metaphor, the domino effect.
You see, extraordinary success doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's sequential. It's all about finding that one right thing to do first, which then starts a chain reaction. That first small win builds momentum, which makes the next one easier, and then the next, and so on.
But here's where it gets really mind-blowing, the actual physics of it. A single domino has enough power to knock over another domino that's 50% larger than itself. This means your progress isn't just adding 1 plus 1, it's geometric, it's exponential.
So think about this. You start with a tiny 2-inch domino. By the time you get to the 18th one in that chain reaction, it will be as tall as the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Small, consistent actions can lead to massive results, and they can do it fast.
And it just gets crazier from there. By the 31st domino, you're looking at something that would tower 3,000 feet above the peak of Mount Everest. The scale of this growth is it's almost impossible to even wrap your head around.
So the takeaway here is clear. If you can line up your priorities just right and then pour all your energy into knocking over that first single lead domino, you can set off a chain reaction that delivers a result that seems completely impossible from where you're standing today.
Okay, this is all great in theory, but how do you actually apply this? How do you find your own lead domino, your one thing, in your work or in your life?
You find it by taking that 80-20 rule and just pushing it to its logical conclusion. The authors call this extreme Pareto. You don't just find the top 20% and stop. Nope. You go deeper. You take 20% of that 20%.
You just keep asking yourself, what matters most, again and again. drilling down until you are left with the single most important action you can take. The one domino that, if you knock it over, will make all the others fall down. That is your one thing.
And here it is. This is the tool. This is the focusing question you can use to find your lead domino for anything, for a huge goal, a new project, or even just to figure out what to do today. Ask yourself this: what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? So, what's your one thing?